Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of The Breakthrough Show. Very excited about today's guest. So grab yourself a beverage, maybe some lunch, and join us here today for The Breakthrough Show, Season 7, Episode 3. Here we go. Hello, everyone, and happy Friday to you. Please bear with me today as I've got a little bit of touch of bronchitis, and just just bear with me as we go through today's episode. I'm so excited to be here with you today and invite you to join us for this transformative episode of The Breakthrough Show. I'm your host, Jessica Dugas, your guide on this journey of inspiration, empowerment, and discovery. Today, we are incredibly honored to welcome back a truly remarkable individual, someone that I consider to be a personal friend and colleague of mine, Oleg Lougheed. Oleg's story is one of resilience, courage, and the extraordinary power of the human spirit to overcome seemingly insurmountable odds. Since his last visit, Oleg has been on an inspiring mission, touching lives and igniting souls with his latest project, Moments Worth Remembering. It's a testament to the beauty of capturing and cherishing those pivotal moments in our lives that define, shape, and transform us. Through his work, Oleg invites us to pause, reflect, and appreciate the mosaic of moments that make up our journey. So join us as we dive deep into the stories behind the moments, exploring how they contribute to our breakthroughs and shape the narrative of our lives. Without further ado, let's welcome Oleg back to the show. Oleg, I'm so excited to have you back today. Welcome. And you're muted, just like that.
All right.
There we go.
It's good to be on the other side of the table. I feel like I'm sure you can relate, right? Being on the
Yeah.
side of constantly interviewing, asking questions. It's a completely different perspective, and I have yet to fully embrace. I think this part where you actually get to experience it from a guest perspective. So thank you for having me on. Thanks for everything that you do, and just creating a space, I think, for all of us to ultimately be seen, heard, and valued as we are. And
Yeah.
I think that's the most that anyone can ever ask of anybody in this lifetime.
Yeah, I appreciate that, I've always felt really connected to you in that we share, while the look of it might be quite different, we share a similar mission. I feel like on
Sure.
this planet to really allow people the opportunity to feel seen, heard, and validated, and to share this space together is super special for me because, of course, I have been the recipient recently of one of
Hmm.
your incredible new books as well. So I'm excited to talk about that too coming up on today's show. Miss Brittany's joining us out in the audience. Happy Friday to you. She says, welcome back, Oleg. Good to see you here today. So please chime in if you're joining us live. Let us know where you're joining from today and if you have any questions for Oleg as we go throughout the episode. So you've been on the show before. You were
Hmm.
involved, your Overcoming Odds, which you were involved with,
Hmm.
was part of the musical Evening of Giving. And so we've been connected for quite some time. For anybody that's new to you, what could you, in short, tell people about Oleg?
Oh man, that's a great question. Uh, Personally, I have found that to be a very challenging question to answer because I think that many of us, if not all of us, are multifaceted beings, right?
Mm,
So I started much of my professional work with the concept of overcoming odds, and that's really creating a space for people to understand that there's so much more than the adversities within their own lives, and to help them essentially pave their own path towards figuring out what that looks like for them in gathering all of these different tools along the way from the challenges in their lives so they can ultimately move forward beyond them. The most recent discovery that I have found within my own journey is having worked in that space for probably 5, 6, 7 years. I started to have a realization, and the realization, I think it came as part of two or threefold. First realization was sitting at my grandpa's funeral many, many years ago, and realizing that here was a great man who truly had an exceptional life, in my opinion. And yet I wondered how many people and how many of the things he knew about the type of impact he has had in other people's lives. The second realization, I think, also came from the Saturday morning calls. So anyone that's tuning in, that's not how you and I met, but that's one of the spaces where I think we're able to get to know each other
right.
more on a
Yeah.
deeper level. So these were Saturday calls that I hosted for an hour for, I think it was 3 years. 3 years free of charge. Anyone can join from any part of the world. And essentially, the beauty of that space was that for 1 hour, we chose a topic that was relevant and important to our lives, and then we're able to have in-depth conversations about it. So that was my second realization of being in spaces like that and witnessing truly unique and genius people, and yet simultaneously realizing that how many of them knew that, or how many of them feel appreciated or seen or heard in the people that they are. So that's what I wanted to do with this recent project endeavor, is to create an opportunity for people to experience joy, for people to understand that they matter, for people to realize that what they do in anyone else's daily life, including their own, matters. And I think the ultimate thing, and the most recent thing that I've heard from other people, is that this is an opportunity for people to read their eulogy before they die. And it's a slightly different concept, right, than the one that we might have been introduced to as people. And that's, most people don't get to read their eulogy, period. It's just something that happens when you pass. And that's what I wanted to do. And I just have been driven ever since, been given that realization and realizing to myself, it's like, why not? Why not give this to ourselves as a gift, right? Like, why not create an opportunity for us to hear from the people closest to us, as well as the people that we might have connected for one or two times, the type of impact that we've had on one another.
Yeah.
It's perfect feedback. That's how I look at it. Everything's feedback,
Right.
and it's just all a matter of how you choose to look at it. So,
Right.
and you were one of the people that I was able to do that for, because you've impacted my life. Yesterday, I sent 5, 6, 7, 7 more books to 7 different
Wow.
people.
Mhm.
We're gonna receive it next week. And it's just one of those things. You don't know what's coming. You don't know how it's gonna come. You don't know which elements of that book you're going to need necessarily. But the fact that I think I'm able to have this realization and act on it, I think that's the best I could ever ask for of
Yeah.
myself.
Yeah. Also, I want to welcome Rhonda, who's out in the audience. Good to see you, Rhonda. And I love, one of the things that I love is when we're on the show, like any lives that we do, because I know you've done live shows before,
Sure.
and seeing people pop up that we've shared moments worth remembering with,
Yeah.
which is really interesting, because it, like, I'm focused, but I'm also like, oh, Rhonda, remember that time when, which is fun.
Yeah.
I want to kind of backtrack for just a minute, before we go to break, and ask you about sort of your transition from overcoming odds into moments worth remembering? Was it a complete like abandonment from one idea to another, or tell me like more about that transition of of how that occurred?
So I still do bits and pieces of it. I think the challenging part has been, and I believe this is true of anyone who has ever started anything from scratch, is it's really not any different than having your own child, right? It's something that it's an idea that you give birth to and then you nurture it, and it's able to become what it becomes. In my case, I started overcoming odds over 7 years ago, and I've been able to test and experiment and experience different opportunities with it. So small scale events, big scale events, live streams like this, workshops with students, faculty, professionals in the workplace. So part of it still exists. I still do a lot of speaking engagements at colleges, high schools, middle schools on the topic of using curiosity as a tool to reshape your story, your professional and personal narratives. So the concept of overcoming out still exists in those spaces, but to some degree, I've also completely transitioned from it. Yes, I've transitioned from it into moments worth remembering, because I think that what I've learned from that journey going into this next chapter is that at the end of the day, in my opinion, with the knowledge that I have right now, there are really only two things,
Mm,
and it's people and the moments or memories you create with them.
mm.
That's it. Like that, I don't really see life any more complex than that. And once I had that realization, I started to realize, well, if that's what it's all about, then that's where my focus needs to be or
Yeah.
needs to go.
Yeah. I love that. I love because I think sometimes I've had difficulty in both personally and professionally in allowing things to have had their moment
Yes.
and and move on to the next thing. I want to dive deeper into moments worth remembering, and maybe we'll create some moments worth remembering
Yeah.
here on the show
Oh, we sure
today.
will.
And so we're going to take a quick commercial break and we'll be right back after this. Don't go anywhere.
Breakthroughs are about more than you might think. They're about discovering who you are, digging deep, reaching to the core of your soul. They're about healing yourself, understanding your beliefs, creating a ripple effect. And it's not just those initial moments that matter. It's about using them to bring more joy into our own lives and the lives of others. It's about having fun, letting loose, enjoying every moment life has to offer. It's about finding a safe space. It's about creating connection. Join us each and every day for exclusive programming, special events, and a community to call home, where we invite you to explore, change the way you look at and live your life, and go beyond the breakthrough. So we ask you, are you ready? We'll see you online at thebreakthroughshow.com.
Welcome back to the Breakthrough Show, Season 7, Episode 3. We welcomed back Oleg Lougheed to the show today, who is at the helm of this incredible Moments Worth Remembering project that he's been working on for quite some time now. It's been,
Mhm.
has it been a year yet?
Not yet. 5, 6, 7 months. I think close to that.
That's it, really? I
Yeah.
thought it was longer than that.
It's been the wildest journey to do this, because
Mm,
it's the fastest, um, progress that I've seen with any project that I've
mm,
experienced. And typically, as I'm sure you can tell, or anyone else who is a business owner, it takes about 1 to 2 to even sometimes 5 years
Yeah.
to really see any sort of results from the things that you do. And in this case, it almost started to happen simultaneously. And
Mm.
maybe it's because of the approach that I took with much of this work. So full disclosure, I started this from my own realizations. And then what I started to do is I literally went back to the drawing board and I wrote down 244 names
Mm.
of people who have ever impacted my life or took a chance on me or
Wow.
made introductions for me. And then I just started to create books for them because I just kind of figured, why not? Right. So there are two ways you could go about it, or I could have gone about it. I could have gone to their significant others or friends and asked them if they wanted to create that, or I just do it. And I chose the latter. I just started doing it just like for you and many other people. And yeah, in 6 to 7 months, it's already become something that I don't even know if I can conceptualize, because there are some people who have reached out, who have received these books and continue to, and are asking if they can support in all these different ways and introduce them to schools, like to principals, as a way to celebrate teachers and custodians, janitors, and other staff faculty. So it's just things that I couldn't even imagine, right?
Right.
Um, so yeah, 6 to 7 months. That's all it's been.
Wow. It's amazing how it's all come together, and I wanted to show you guys. So this is what one of the books looks like here if I don't take myself and the microphone out in the process. Um it and you have kind of like the logo is really neat because it's MWR, moments worth remembering,
Mhm.
but you can kind of see like there's some pictures of me and my family. And so that's really neat that it's like it's obvious what this is, but it's also like it's personalized, to
Yeah.
who the person is. And so let's break this down for everybody. This is it's a hard book, and tell everybody exactly what's in the book.
So in the book are individual letters from people who have been asked to contribute to the book. So an example being, if you're listening right now, is imagine there's a book that's being created for you. Throughout it, you have contributions from your mom, your dad, your brother, your sister, your best friend, the people you work with, people you interact with in all these different ways, all answering the question of what makes you a gift in their lives. And some submissions, as Jessica can say, are a couple sentences, couple paragraphs. Some people write multiple pages, and some people could probably fill up a whole book just of their own. And that's the beauty of it, is that there's a common theme, but as far as the stories and memories that are shared from one to another are drastically different because of the relationship that you have with each person. So that's really what I wanted to do when I was creating much of this. Is I started to realize that, okay, what what one possible way can we celebrate and really recognize the people in the person's life, and that's to literally gather their community. So it's the same concept of it takes a village to raise a child. I think it's the same exact thing that applies here. It takes a village, or it takes a community to raise and empower and support every single one of us. So what better way than to turn to the community that the person's a part of, gather all of these written submissions, put it together into a book, and then gift it to the person when they least expect it. That's the other component to this whole experience, is that most people receive this book without even knowing that they're going to receive the book, or without
Mm,
even knowing that a book like that exists for them and about them.
right.
And people receive it differently. People have receive things like that differently, depending on, are you an introvert, extrovert, how
Mm,
comfortable are you with your feelings, right? How comfortable are you with the people that are sharing those feelings with you through the book?
right.
But I think the most beautiful thing that I've experienced is that I have yet had one person that came back and say, "Man, this is the worst thing ever," or "I can't believe this was this was created for me."
Yeah.
Some people do have a harder time accepting much
Mm,
of that. I think a lot of it has to do with their own level of vulnerability, but 99, if not 100% of the time, I've seen it to be a positive thing, something that makes people think about the role that they play in other people's lives. I've seen it deepen connections. I've seen it be a pathway to restoring relationships. And I'll share with you a couple stories. One of them is a person who had purchased a book for one of his parents, and they had a difficult upbringing, difficult childhood, and he used this as a space to forgive his parent.
Mm,
From there, supposedly, the relationship became something that it never was. And it created an opportunity for them to open up why things happened the way they did. It created an opportunity for them to heal, to process things on a different level. Um, some people, it's been just pure acts of love, right? People that you've been connected to, as I'm sure you can relate to this too. I mean,
mm,
your husband was one of the people that I reached out to when I said, "Hey, I want to put this together for Jessica," and instantly he was
mm,
like, "Yes." Created a list, got on top of everyone to make sure they submitted everything. But it's people like that, people that you've known for, I don't know how many years you guys have known each other, but it's probably been a while.
yeah, been a minute. It's been a minute. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's like that's the other beauty, right? Is you get to share those moments, and who knows what he might have written in yours that might make you think, "Oh, I didn't know this," or "I didn't know
Mm,
you thought about me in X, Y, and Z way." So
right.
if anything, it's just another it's an additional layer that then you can use to connect
Mm.
with the people that are part of it.
Right. And I'll say this is what's interesting about the interaction that you had with my husband is my husband in his mind wants to do things like that for people, but he's extremely busy with his job. He doesn't always like he knows like he wants to do something, but he's not really sure what that is. Sometimes I notice with him, and so it was really a beautiful thing that you reached out to him and kind of gave the opportunity to be like, "Hey, this is something we could do," because he's once he gets the idea, he's good, like he's off. That's it. Like he's on it. But it's interesting and to kind of look back from my perspective as well. You were talking about, most people don't know that I didn't know I was getting the book. However, I knew exactly what it was knowing
Yeah,
Oleg when I opened
yeah.
it because I've seen obviously the books on social media and things like that. Kat's joining us this afternoon. Good to see you, Kat. Um,
Okay.
and and so I agree that I could see how it's a very different experience for people. And I had very different experiences based on the person, what they shared, um, all of those things. Brittany, Brittany's commenting, it was so hard
Sure.
not to tell you. You know how you are with secret. Listen, Brittany and I torment each other regularly. I was making her something, but I was waiting on a part. And I messaged her. I'm like, I got something in the mail today, but I can't tell you what it is. Like literally, it's horrible. But great at the same time. And so yeah, Brittany was one of those people that I know she was like, it killed me. It absolutely killed me to not say anything, filling that out. Did you have any when you started this?
Yeah.
Did you have any expectations for how you hoped the books would be received, or did you just kinda clear your mind of all that?
Well, I think yes and no. And I think the whole concept of letting go of expectations, it's in my opinion, it's much harder. It's much easier said than done. So
Absolutely.
yes, I think there's a part of me that wanted to remove myself from how people are going to receive it. But then at the same time, it's just knowing who I am. I wanted to create a positive experience for people, and I wanted to help, not even help, but I wanted people to feel how I had felt when I was seen, heard, and appreciated by all these other people throughout my own life. And I think it's a feeling that's almost difficult, if maybe even impossible, to put into words what actually happens within your body when you truly are able to experience that from one person or multiple people, right? And that's where I think the beauty of it lies. And so to some degree, I did and I didn't have an expectation. I think for me moving forward now, because we have worked. So in the 6 months, I was just actually looking at this the other day. We've done over 250, 260, like 270 books. Pretty, that's 270 individual people who've been able to experience it, in addition to a minimum of 15 to 20 people that contribute to every single one of these books. So that's well over 1,000, 2,000 people who have been able to be a part of this. And for me, I think the goal has always been relatively the same from the time of even starting Overcoming Odds to moving into Moments Worth Remembering, is that the goal has always been about how can I make another person's day better than it might have been before, right? I'll give you an example that's completely off subject, but maybe there's a tie-in point
Yeah.
to all of this. So yesterday I walked out of my door and I noticed that my neighbor's trash can was broken. Like the bottom completely was broke, and there's just no way. There's no point of putting in trash because when they pick up the trash can, it's just all gonna fall through.
Right.
And not to say anything bad about Philadelphia trash pickup system, but like once that happens, the trash is just gonna be on the street, and it's
Yeah.
just the way it is.
Yeah.
So I decided that okay, I have an opportunity here. I can either acknowledge that for what it is and continue on with the rest of my day, or I can make a difference, or I can be the difference, right? So I reopened my door, I put my bag down, and I went to the hardware store on the corner and bought the neighbor a trash can. Knocked on her door. It's like, hey, I noticed your trash can was broken. Here's a new trash bin. I couldn't even put it to you into words right now. The joy and the excitement that I think she felt when I did that. Because not many people do that, right? I mean, I don't know of a single person, to be honest with you, who has ever done that. Just bought a trash can for another person because they felt that they might need it
Mm.
and actually delivered that, which goes back to, I think, a larger topic that you and I started discussing before we hit record on here, and that's what happened or what happens within our lives where appreciation no longer becomes the primary mode of action, right?
Right.
Why is it that it seems that many of us have to go through these moments of aha or awareness to even realize that, oh man, I should say thank you to this person, or I should reach out to my sixth grade teacher and thank him or her for X, Y, and Z. So that's been a question that I've been wondering for a while is why, in many cases, why do we take so long to say thank you? Why do we take um, these moments for granted? Why can't we pick up the person's trash if we see it on the street? Why can't we say thank you? Why can't we hold the door? Why can't we do all these additional things? And I don't know. I haven't found an answer to that question. It's just, I think, the way the world is. But that's really what I started to do with much of it is just, I have the awareness now, and the best thing I can ever do is act on that awareness. And hopefully, throughout the journey of doing it, going back to your question of expectation, the expectation is that in doing this, hopefully I can create awareness for other people
Mm.
to take a step back, to recognize the people in their lives, or if anything, at least thank the people that contributed to your book. That's at least 15 to 20 people that person is able to reconnect with. So that's where I look at that, and I think of that as a job well done from my end and anyone that's a part of us working with us, is that at least we've created an opportunity for them to say thank you to at least that many people, right?
Mm.
Because you can it's very difficult to, I think, receive something like this, to see all these names and then just brush it off and not even reach out to a single one.
Right. Right.
I think it's probably impossible, right? So you're gonna
Yeah.
reach out to at least a handful of them
Right.
and thank them for what they wrote. So that's where I think the ultimate value of it is. is creating that awareness for people in their day-to-day lives and helping them understand that at the end of the day, maybe the all there ever is experiences and the people we get
Right.
to create those things with.
Right. Yeah, it's not an answer to what we were talking about why are people the way they are? When did things
Yeah.
change, and all of that. But I will say part of that awareness for me has been that um a shift in taking I don't have time as an excuse
Yes.
for from myself and also from others, because we all have the exact amount same time in a day. I mean, as long as we were gifted the full day, we all have the exact same
Yes.
amount of time. And how I think the realization that we need to come to is that we are at the helm for how we prioritize within that time.
Yeah.
And I think there's so many of us that have felt or do feel now some sort of hold, societal hold, finances and family, and all of these responsibilities that we might have and things like that to make us feel like we have less control than we do over
Yep.
that time that we spend. But truly, we're at the helm of, at minimum, like you're talking about with the gratitude, how we respond.
Yes.
We can we may be super busy, but I mean, I should get my timer out and see how long it takes to just say thank you.
Yes.
Doesn't take It was short enough to put in this fabulous button here.
Thank you.
So it's interesting to think about, and I know that I've had a lot of shifts of my own in that area, which brings me to my next question for you, which is
Mm.
um what have been your biggest breakthroughs in, whether it's creating this project to begin with or in seeing the reactions from other people?
Well, I think the biggest breakthroughs that I noticed is the first one that I mentioned at the beginning, and that's an older gentleman coming up to me that I gave this book to, and he said, "Thank you for giving me a chance to read my eulogy." I think that was a huge realization because it gave him a chance to read something before he passes. And the other thing that I'll say about life is that I think there's an expectation or assumption that many of us, myself included, create that we are going to live a long life, right? When the reality of that is none of that is in your control. Your next moment, you have no control over. Your next breath, your next anything, you have no control over. And that was another big breakthrough or realization for me in understanding that all there ever is now, and the perception of what was, which might change over time. But really, all there is now. And how has that helped me in my day to day life is in understanding that I started to take more action. I started to become more intentional, more purposeful with the things that I do. So, in some ways, I think it helped me redefine the concept of I'll do it tomorrow, right? I was a huge believer in that story for many, many years. I would think of all these great things, and then afterwards I'll say, "Oh, I'll do it tomorrow." In fact, I probably have
Yeah.
this ongoing. I have this ongoing joke about Nike. Nike's slogan is
Hmm.
"Just do it."
Yeah.
I think the more realistic slogan would be "Just do it dot tomorrow," because
Right.
that's the reality for I think a lot of us.
Absolutely.
And so that's what I started to realize throughout much of this work is there's really no reason to wait. If I can do something like this, if I can create a book for somebody today, which I'm going to do, right? Why not? And why not create this opportunity for another person or other people? So that's another realization I had as part of it. And I'll say the last thing that I've realized through much of this work is that 99% of the time, or maybe even 100% of the time, people don't truly know how you feel about them unless you are given a space to express that. So think about people closest to you. Think about your parents, think about your best friends, think about your school teachers, whoever it is that you feel like you have a close connection with. How well do you think they really know you, right? And that's the realization that I had as part of this work, is that most of us, we know each other on the surface, so to speak, and that's what we're doing professionally, where we're living, how old we are, all these things. But rarely do we know things like, how do I feel about Jessica? Or how does she make me feel every time I interact with her? Or do I really feel loved by her? What does that even look like? What do I love about her? What do I appreciate about her? So that's the last component that I've learned to this point about, or through much of this work, is the emotional side. This is how people really feel about one another. And I think for me, the vision is to continue creating these for as many people as possible. And I mean, ultimately, what I want to do is I want to be able to just start creating this for neighbors.
Yeah.
Why not? It sounds wild. It's like, why not? You can start creating these for people that you live
Yeah.
next to, people that you create communities with, people that you might have had one interaction in your lifetime, but yet that was a positive experience. And even if it was a negative experience, well, what did it help you learn? How did it help you become a better person? So
Right.
ultimately, I think all of us are reflections of one another. I think we can learn from one another, regardless whether it's a positive or negative. And that's the beauty of it all.
Right. Right. I love that you're sharing that we don't, so many of us are not aware of what we mean to another person.
Correct.
And that gets in a little bit to love languages, because while some of us may vocalize that, there's a lot of people that don't. And I had a situation recently where I had the opportunity to reconnect with one of my first band instructor from high school, and he recently told me that I'm the only one that was his first job teaching, so it meant a lot to him as well, that period
Yeah.
of time. I am the only one from that time that has been in touch or anything, and I made it a point to express my thanks to him, because my music teachers were everything to me in school, my teachers in general, but music especially, and I shared that with him, and he was just like, "I really had no idea, like, I would have never thought that I had that kind of impact. I only had you in the class for a year." And
Yeah.
I said, "But that taught me, like, so, like, I listed things for him, of, like, what it meant to me, and he just was not aware, even though we may feel like, 'Hey, I'm telling everybody thank you.' That's not always, we may not really be expressing it as much as we think we are. So it's a great awareness to have through a project like this, to go, wow, maybe I really haven't said something. Um, one of the big realizations for me in receiving the book is that sometimes, and we talked a little bit about this on your
Mhm.
podcast, um, sometimes a moment is a moment, and in one of the cases in my book, it was an opportunity for me to let go and move forward, um, because there was a relationship in the book that I am no longer connected with. And
Mhm.
doesn't mean that one day it's not going to come back around and I'll have the opportunity to sort of face that head on. But this offered me the opportunity for closure when I wasn't afforded that, when the sort of split happened. And
Yeah.
um so I think, while we can be quick to say there's only value in moments from people that mean something to us, or for
That
people
are
that we're
positive.
still connected
Yeah.
with, right? That it has to have some kind of positive thing tied with it. There's really value in every moment. We just have to choose to do the work to find it. Do you resonate with that as well?
Yeah. And I think just to also expand on what you said regarding impact, I think something that I personally took for granted is that I used to think that it would have to take a long amount of time in order for you to experience impact from somebody in your life. The reality of the matter is that's not true. And
Absolutely.
think about the number of people that you've met, and Brittany and Rhonda and anyone else that's on this right now that's listening, and that's just through one conversation, you were able to experience a shift in your own life to such degree where it completely changed your worldview, right? So that's a 5 minute conversation. That's a 10 minute. That's a half hour. That's an hour long dialogue that completely rewired parts of who you are. And that's what I start to recognize within my own life, is understanding that to some degree, no level of impact is too small to make a difference. And you will never know who is going to impact your life in what way. That's maybe the ongoing mystery and the beauty of life, right? You might cross paths with an individual, and they might say something throughout that conversation that deeply resonates with you, that ultimately helps you see a world through a different lens. I'm a huge believer at this point in my life that we don't attract what we need, but we attract who we are. And I have a friend
Mhm.
of mine who really, she almost said this verbatim, but she really helped me see this through, once again, just a conversation. She said, "You don't attract what you need, you attract who you really are." And that's how you feel about who you are and your circumstances and what you envision for your life. That's the energy that you're constantly putting out, right? That's the present moment. You might think you need X, Y, and Z, but if you're operating from a place of fear and judgment and resentment and all these other things, then why would you expect to attract something different than your current vibration? So that's where I think there is a lot to be said in regard to the role that we play in each other's lives, the having the ability to express those things to one another, and to ultimately, I think, create a picture for every single one of us in helping us understand that we matter and that what we're doing actually makes a difference, and it's at least impacting one person's life. We have a project right now, and I'll just share some brief details about it. But we're
Sure.
creating a book for a couple people whose one of the parents had passed, right? So he's not going to get a chance to read this. But think about this as a way to create a memory of that person, which is really funny because, or it's interesting because I remember years and years ago, I had a conversation with a woman named Nancy John, who I don't know if you guys have crossed paths or not, but she's just like exceptional person. And every time I have a conversation with her, it's always a long story longer. So we book an hour, but we end up speaking for 3. It's just the
Yeah.
way our connection works. But one of the things that we discussed, I remember years and years ago, and that's, how do you want to be remembered, right? And I think in regard to that question, I think people go through 3 types of death, or maybe multiple types of death. I think it's the physical death, I think it's the spiritual death, and I think it's the death when people stop talking about you. That's, I think, the ultimate death of your physical presence on this planet. And I think with having things like this, books like this, it's an opportunity for people to bring up individuals who may no longer be with us and still remember them, and possibly create new memories, possibly have new realizations, new breakthrough moments, right? About who they are. So I think it's just like anything else in life. It's a resource. And like I've told many people before, my ultimate goal is to just create a level of awareness for people and help them understand that at the end of the day, tomorrow is not guaranteed. Your next interaction is not guaranteed. Your next moment is not guaranteed. What's guaranteed is right now. So, what can you do with what you have and who you have? How can you show them that they matter, that they make a difference, that it's not all just, oh, we're just bypassing time and using each other to get to X, Y, and Z destinations, but it really is something meaningful. Like, we get to connect, and this is how you make me feel, and this is how it impacts all my other relationships. So, long story longer, I think it's a practice. I think it's a practice one can cultivate of being appreciative and being grateful.
Right. Right. It's interesting because I've wondered sometimes if it takes a certain kind of person to recognize the little things, um or be willing to be in the moment. And I think what you're saying is so on point, that it is something that if you have a moment watching today's show or at any other moment in your life and say to yourself, I want to be more present. I want to be more grateful. I want to be more connected and be in a deeper relationship with those that I'm surrounded with, that you
Yeah.
can make that choice to prioritize differently, to make it a practice so that it becomes part of who you are as opposed to just something that you strive to be.
Yes. And look, for me, and I think this is true for you too, the purpose of us hosting or being on this show right now is we're not here to sell products, we're not here to sell services. Yes, those are things that are a part of our lives,
Right.
but ultimately, I think for me, what makes a successful conversation is, was I able to express the things that I wanted to express and potentially impact another person's life through the realizations that I've had through my own life, right?
Mm.
And that's the ultimate purpose. Whatever happens from there, whether the people choose to engage and purchase the book for loved ones in their lives, that's out of my control. I can't
Right.
control that, nor should I try. If anything, if it creates a slight inkling of a realization of someone in their life that is meaningful to them, that they've been wanting to express some element of gratitude and appreciation for, whether that's through a text, a phone call, a thank you, one of these books, whatever that form might be, that's the ultimate goal, right?
Right.
Like, that's what makes for me a better world,
Yeah.
is we're able to do this. And the reason why I bring that up is because something else that I've realized through much of this work is, because it is a rather unique project, is sometimes people will come back to me and say, "Man, aren't you worried that other people are going to steal your idea, and you have to develop all these additional things and technologies so no one can replicate what you do?" And the reality of the matter is, no, I'm not worried. And many people can do what we do. Absolutely. The difference for me is in the mindset. I would love for people to do more of what we do, even if it's the same exact business. Why? Because it creates more opportunities for people to feel loved, to feel valued,
Right.
to feel seen in who they are. So it's like, why wouldn't I want to be a part of a
Yeah.
bigger goal like that? Who cares if you started, moments to remember, or moments, whatever the
Yeah.
whatever possible alternative name you can find to it. And I think of some of the great leaders that I personally look at throughout history, Gandhi being one of them, right? I mean, he literally encouraged people, through my lens and understanding, to not use force of violence to be able to deal with some of these things. Now, do you honestly think he took the time and cared? Man, I'm competing with so many people, and
Right.
if all
Right.
these other people are doing this too, it's somehow going to take away from my perception of who I am. No, I think he just did it. I think he just showed up. And I think that's the big thing that I'm learning about business is, it's one thing to operate from something that you genuinely believe in and want to make a difference with. And it's a whole other thing to operate from the lens of scarcity, and thinking that, okay, someone is out there trying to steal my business. Someone is out there trying to steal my clients. I mean, people are people. Like, we do and
Yeah.
we buy different things on a different day. Whatever might be of interest to you today may not be of interest to you tomorrow. And
Right.
that's the cool
Right.
part.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I want to give everybody the opportunity to learn about where they can get a book, where they can learn more, where they can connect with you, because I know from our one of our recent conversations that you're open to all the new friends. So we're going to listen to one of my favorite moments worth remembering from I think both of our perspective,
Mm.
someone that's really worth remembering, and we'll be right back after this.
I shall stand for love, even with a broken soul, even with a heavy heart. I shall stand for love, for the world is wounded, not just my little piece of land, where I am mostly safe, where I am mostly well, but our world, everywhere, every day. I shall stand for love, because we need more light, not more death, not more power, not more bombs. I shall stand for love, so that our children are safe, so that our friends are sheltered, so that our borders are open. I shall stand for love, even with a broken soul, even with a heavy heart.
Welcome back to season 7, episode 3 of The Breakthrough Show. I'm here with my friend Oleg Lougheed. Appreciate you all standing for love with us. In memory of Dorothy Auger as well, you can visit weshallstandforlove.world to learn more about that incredible project. Everybody wants to know. I can
Uh-huh.
feel it. Where
Yeah.
they can
Everybody.
find out. Everybody wants to know where they can find out more about. Tell us where they can learn about the book, where they can get the book, and then if you
Mhm.
give us maybe a little insight, like say I go there and I'm like, okay, I want to get a book. Tell me like what I can sort of expect out like in the first
Yes,
interactions. Yeah.
the process. So where they can get the book is momentsworthremembering.com. You go on there and you'll be able to see the different occasions that books like this have been gifted to other people for. So birthdays, retirements, graduations, any sort of special occasion or celebration, or I get well gift, any of those things apply. Now, what does the process look like? Is you go to the website, you go under get started, and one of the things you'll be asked a series of questions like, what is the person's favorite color? So, as in, what do you want the book to look like? So, in Jessica's case, hers was purple.
Yep.
Okay,
And not that
so
we can't tell from literally every show, like purple.
so hers was purple, and then you essentially place an order, and then a member of us or myself or some of the other people will reach back out to you and say, "Hey, got your order," and then we start the process. So we start the process for that. What does that look like for most books? So when you purchase a book, you will then work with our team, and your sole responsibility, at least at the beginning, will be to gather a list of contacts that you're going to reach out to contribute to the book. Now, we help set up the back end. So we'll set up a web page, we'll set up everything for you through our site. So then you can literally just share that with different people through text, email, whatever's easiest. They submit all the data, we collect all the data, we put it together, proofread it, package it into a book, and then literally you have a book. So from start to finish, from the first interaction to you physically having the book in your hands, 2 to 3 weeks. That's all it takes. And then you'll have the final product like Jessica showed you, all of you, and it's like it's yeah, I think it's as seamless as it could be. And as you can see on the front, those are all pictures of the person receiving the book, right? And then the back and the front of the front cover, those are the favorite colors that we try to match with each person. And then
Purple.
inside, you have the individual submissions that people write for the topic. So you could pick any questions too, like what makes X, Y, and Z a gift in their lives. There you go. Or what do you appreciate about them? What do you love about them? You can have pictures throughout the book as well. So there's just a number of ways that I think you can design this. So there you go. Yep. You can have pictures like that. But yeah, ultimately it's as simple as that. Go to momentsworthremembering.com. and fill in the details, place the order, and then from there we'll be able to help create this. But I have yet to receive one um, on my own. I thought about doing one for myself. That'd be kind of funny, right?
Mm,
Reach out to all these people and say, "Hey, can
yeah.
you contribute to me for me?"
Yeah.
Um, but having seen that from people like you, having seen the reaction from literally hundreds of people to this point, it's a priceless experience
Yeah.
because you can understand the concept.
Right.
I think you can reference it to certain things like thank you
Mhm.
cards, right?
Right.
But when you actually receive it yourself, it's like, wow.
Right.
You were speechless.
Yeah.
I think 99% of the other people were speechless.
Yeah.
And part of it maybe has to do, and I'll be curious to hear your perspective on this, is because we don't expect to receive things like this, or
Mm.
many of us don't.
Yeah.
Hence, we can't find the words.
Right. Yeah, I think, and it was like I said, it was an interesting moment for me receiving it because I knew what it was. I had seen mutual friends of ours sharing about it, and in fact, I was joking on Oleg's podcast about how, I saw one girl, Summer Watson, share about how she was still processing it, and I literally closed the video, and I was like, "What do you mean still processing it? I'm still processing it," and I got it at Christmas time. Christmas time. I wasn't even fully done processing when I went on Oleg's podcast to talk about processing it. So I get it now because it really is like there's so many layers of each and every um part of the book or every entry within the book, from
Yeah.
the person to what they choose to share to what's your relationship with that person now, what
Mm.
was that relationship with that person, who's in the book, who's not in the book, when you got it, like it was Christmas morning. I'm already an emotional wreck on holidays and then I get it on Christmas morning. So it was a journey. It's been a journey. It continues to be a journey. And it is for me the gift that keeps giving because I go back to it. I keep it by my desk. And even if I don't open it,
Mm.
I'm reminded, just glancing at the cover, say thank you today. Tell someone you love them today. Appreciate yourself today.
Yes.
That's another part of this. I think that's another part for me of why it was challenging to receive, was to go, these things that I thought could be true about myself, I guess, yeah, maybe they are true,
Yeah.
so that was an interesting, part of, there's so many layers of it. If
And
anybody
we don't
wants to
truly
learn.
know, right?
Right,
And that's the
right,
thing, and that's the point that I think you and I have said many times is we don't truly know
yeah,
the difference we make in others' lives unless we give them a chance to express that.
right,
Like I have a lot of friendships. I have a friendship of 18 to 19 years. I have multiple friendships that are 10 years and above. And I'm even thinking of those friendships and I think, to be honest with you, it wasn't until something like this we were able to create, where
yeah,
I was able to understand, tangibly understand by reading words on paper what it is they meant to me or I meant to them.
right,
And that's the big difference is we can go through life, many of us I think go through life in my opinion,
mhm,
and we assume that we know the difference we make in the lives of others. But it's until the people are given the chance to express that we can concretely say, "Oh, this is what I've done," or "This is what I'm doing that is actually of value to the people in my life."
right, right. I love it. Well, I am so thankful that you were able to join me back on the show today. It's been a while since you've been on my show. So, I
Yeah.
mean, it's kind of, social media and connection with people is so deceptive sometimes because we're like, "Oh, I just saw you like recently, but it wasn't this show." So it was for another reason. So I love that you're able to join us back today. I encourage everybody to go visit momentsworthremembering.com. Do you have a final message you'd like to leave our audience today, Oleg?
I just say the best thing that I could say is like I said before, tomorrow is not guaranteed. So do whatever that you can with the moment that you have today. And that's, if you want to say thank you or express other forms of appreciation to people in your life, then why not seize that moment right now? I mean, literally, right this moment as you hear it, send that text, make the phone call, send an email, whatever that form is. It's you never know. You never know who needs it. And maybe it is you, maybe it is I, maybe it is all of us that need to hear those things. But that's the beauty of it, is that it opens doorways to things that we couldn't even imagine were possible.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Oleg, thank you so much for joining us on the show today. I really
Thank you.
appreciate you, my friend.
Thank you. Thank you for
All
having me
right.
on.
Absolutely. I want to take just a moment here as we close this episode of the Breakthrough Show. I find myself reflecting on the profound impact of those moments worth remembering that Oleg shared with us today. These moments, whether grand or subtle, joyous or challenging, hold the keys, I feel like, to unlocking our potential, guiding us towards our own breakthrough moments, which you know we love to talk about here on the show. Oleg, your journey and your commitment to capturing and honoring the essence of life's pivotal moments inspire us all to look within and around us with gratitude and awareness. Thank you for returning to the show today and reminding us of the power we hold in creating, sharing, and celebrating those moments that truly matter. To our viewers, I hope today's episode encourages you to embrace and collect your own moments worth remembering. Let them be your compass, your inspiration, and your motivation to seek, achieve, and cherish your breakthroughs. And of course, you know that the journey doesn't end here. I invite you to join us next time for the Relationship of Allowing with Carolyn McGee next Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time as we explore another dimension of personal growth and breakthrough moments. Promises to be an episode full of insights and revelations, so I would love to have you there. My name is Jessica Dugas. I'm your host here on The Breakthrough Show and the creator of the Breakthrough Show Network. And I remind you to make every day a great day for a breakthrough. And we'll see you next time. Bye, everybody.